We're on.
Okay. Well, we'd like to thank you first of all for taking time on this hot summer day to come and talk to us. We think it's really important that the community hears what you have to say, so we appreciate that. My name is Elizabeth Western. I'm a citizen here in Cleveland Heights. I live on Englewood Road, just around the corner from here. And I think the plan tonight is to just, we're going to kind of play tag team. I'll ask you some questions on a variety of different topics. And then you also will be giving us a written, answering a written survey that will also be provided to the citizens. So you'll have an opportunity to do that as well. The first question that we'd like to talk to you tonight about is Cleveland Heights itself. A strong democratic community requires both citizen leadership and a strong city government. Step It Up is a group of citizens passionate about Cleveland Heights who have great aspirations for our community. We would like to know more about your vision of the city, or your views of the city, excuse me. What excites you about Cleveland Heights' future, and what could Cleveland Heights do to make our community one of the best suburbs in the nation?
Well, first, thanks for having me.
Great.
I guess I should say my name's Gary Benjamin.
Yes.
I moved to Cleveland Heights 4 years ago, and actually just changed my voter registration a year ago to here from Detroit. And what attracted me to the city was that it just seems to be a very good, solid place. There's a lot of strip commercial, and there's a mall, if you can call Severance a mall. There's a lot of good people. I think politically it's one of the strongest places I've lived in that people work for social justice often as a group, which is very good for me. So those were some of the attractions. The main one was that my fiance moved here too, but we picked Cleveland Heights together. We have a lot of friends here. My day job is doing universal healthcare organizing, so we know a lot of the people in that community. That we're pretty busy right now, doing a lot of work trying to get a good plan through Washington. I see Cleveland Heights as a place with a lot of strengths. The school system, a lot of people talk highly of it. The services are very good. I also think it's a city with a lot of challenges. And the one thing you mentioned about democracy, small d, is that a lot of people in Cleveland Heights are passionate about it, but it's a dwindling number. 25% of the population has evaporated since 1970. One fact a lot of people don't know as well is that the median incomes also dropped 25%. This means the income tax and the property tax are both dropping. And not just because of the recession. The recession has caused about 1,000 vacant houses in the city as well, from a report I read in the paper, which probably means last year we lost more people than the normal trend line, which was 500 or 600 a year. Except in the Bill Clinton years, of course. Not to be partisan, but even in those years, the loss was in the 100 to 200 a year range. It's been a trend downward, and this is a national thing for inner ring suburbs. It's a bigger trend, of course, for the city itself, and as Cleveland goes, so goes the region. I think we need to talk about regionalism. I think we need to talk a lot about sustainability and how we can create a green city in a green region. I think we need to talk about green jobs. There are other models from around the country that I'm aware of. The work I did in Southeast Michigan was with Myron Orfeld and David Rusk, who are nationally known experts on metropolitan equity and this kind of problem. And we had some pretty good successes, but what that taught me is that these problems are, particularly in what we call the Rust Belt, big problems. Some cities have reversed, some little cities have reversed the trend. There's one little city I worked with in Michigan. I worked on mass transit issues with the city manager there, and he got a targeted tax increase on business as almost the first thing he did. But they didn't use the money to balance the budget. They didn't use the money for anything operational. They used the money to reinvest in the business community in doing facade developments and things like that. And the business community picked up so that they actually were gaining in population in a minor way after Tom got his program in place. There are other models like that around the country. I'm not a proponent of tax increases. I think generally that's a mistake in an inner ring suburb, because the cycle is the more you lose people, the more the people there have to bear to keep services up. And as that tax keeps going up, people looking to move in look at that. And even if it's a wonderful city, it's clearly not wonderful enough to actually draw more people in than we lose. Melody and I are, I don't know if I'd say exceptions to the rule, but we chose to move in because it's a good place. And we're willing to deal with the tax burden because of that. But I don't think that's true of a lot of people. I hear, when I go around talking to people who get signatures, one day at Cedar Fairmont, I ran into 3 people who've been in this area for at least a decade each. All of them said they would move in a minute. They were not going to be trying to sell Cleveland Heights to their friends. It just was too expensive. So I think we have to look at all those things. And what I would propose is that we work out a series of forums, meetings, focus groups, whatever we want to call them, to start talking about those problems openly amongst all the citizens, and to start putting ideas together that might work. Because whatever we do, we can't do what we've been doing. We have to make a change.
Great. And as you've stated, our city has many problems. Here's a reality check from one of our members, and this is a quote from her. My house was broken into. 5 vacant houses on my street are the site of vandalism and squatters. My property value has gone down dramatically, and a number of nearby storefronts are empty. I also pay high taxes for a street with more potholes and diminished city services. Why should she stay? So we talked about the problems, but why? What can we tell our citizens? Why should they stay in the city?
Well, I think there's some things. Well, the first honest answer is if she maybe she shouldn't because of that situation, but there is hope. And one of the things that we can do in the city government is try to make that burden less. There are other things that other cities have done. For instance, we have, I forget the budget, $36 million. It's pretty substantial. We're using a bank. Why shouldn't we leverage that money on banks to try to get people good mortgages? Why shouldn't we do other things with the private sector that don't really require much legislative action to try to make things easier for people? The potholes in some ways are a function of the regional government and not getting the money in here quickly enough to fix the streets, depending on what street she's on. So, and crime, to me, that would be an area where you would make sure there was a police presence of pretty strong amount. What we did in some of the city neighborhoods that had that kind of problem before, where you made sure the police were there, and you do something I don't normally recommend, which is you really enforce laws strictly. So it's likely the break-ins are being done by 1 or 2 people. And if you can keep enforcing laws strictly and make that environment less user-friendly for criminals, if I can use a technical term, then you might be able to solve that problem for her. But she clearly needs some help from the city government right now.
Great.